First up, Chinese President Xi Jinping will visit the United States next week, and he is scheduled to meet with President Joe Biden, as well as attend the APEC meetings in San Francisco. Beijing says the two presidents will have in-depth communication on issues that will shape China-U.S. relations, global stability, as well as development. The Xi-Biden talks will be their first face-to-face encounter since the G20 summit in Indonesia last year. Well, ahead of that scheduled meeting between the two presidents, Chinese Vice Premier He met with U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen for a second day of discussions. Those talks in San Francisco also ahead of the APEC leaders meeting next week. For more on everything APEC and what to expect, we're going to bring in Mark New, joining us live from San Francisco. So, Mark, what do we know so far?
Sean, even though APEC doesn't officially kick off till Saturday, high-level negotiations are already underway. Chinese Vice Premier Lifeng and his counterpart, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, have wrapped up discussions at the hotel right behind me, the Ritz-Carlton. Friday's meeting took place in a sort of one-on-one setting, and after their meetings, emphasized that the talks were candid, pragmatic, in-depth, and constructive. Both parties reached the following important consensus, agreeing to strengthen communication, seek consensus, manage differences, and avoid misunderstandings and accidental escalation of friction. Now, they said they welcome holding a meetings of the China-U.S. Economic and Financial Working Group led by officials at the deputy ministerial level. It was also emphasized that China and the United States do not seek economic decoupling and welcome the development of healthy economic relations. And they agreed to work together to address common challenges, including economic growth, financial stability, and regulation, agreed to cooperate on economic issues related to climate change and debt issues in low-income and emerging economies, and agreed to strengthen the international financial architecture. Now, these last 2 days of talks were seen as integral in laying the groundwork for next week's APEC bilateral meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and President Joe Biden. And what better backdrop than to have the discussion taking place right here in San Francisco.
From bustling Fisherman's Wharf to its nostalgic cable cars, San Francisco prepares to showcase its charms on a global stage. The city is hosting the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation meeting for the first time ever.
This is a great opportunity. Everybody knows us as innovation capital of the world, but in the past administration, they've highlighted other states and cities in the nation. But to be highlighted, San Francisco being highlighted is important because, first of all, we do have a really huge Asian population. And the thing is that being the gateway to the Pacific, as well as from the Asia Pacific to the US of A, I think it just makes sense that it takes place here. From an opportunity perspective,
in fact, more than a third of San Francisco's population is of Asian and Pacific Islander descent. It's also home to San Francisco Chinatown, which is billed as being the largest Chinatown outside of Asia and the oldest Chinatown in North America.
The economic ties between San Francisco and the Asia-Pacific region are also strong. The city's customs logs around $100 billion from two-way shipping to APEC members every year.
It's really a powerful relationship. The activity that goes in and out of the Port of Oakland, we're a major agricultural and other export port, mostly going to the Asia-Pacific area. We have a ton of semiconductors, computer equipment, electronic equipment that goes in and out primarily through SFO to and from Asia. So it's a major global trade center. And when you look at the companies from around the Asia-Pacific area that are invested here, that have a presence on the ground, it's enormous.
With the U.S. and China embroiled in a contentious trade dispute, Randolph is hoping the San Francisco-hosted event can help jumpstart the relationship. In fact, on this ferry, the Bay Area Council will be hosting events during APEC week. He believes one of the biggest selling points for San Francisco is cutting-edge technology.
I think part of the reason that San Francisco was chosen, it is the #1 global epicenter for technology and innovation, and everybody in the world knows it. More than half of all the leading AI companies in the United States that are receiving serious investment are based in the Bay Area, primarily in San Francisco.
With hundreds of CEOs gathering at the event, Randolph believes APEC in San Francisco provides a rare opportunity for delegates to meet with tech innovators and strike up a relationship that could prove beneficial in the long run.
And continuing with the theme of relationships for the long haul, well, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said that He welcomed her to make a return visit to China. She responded by saying she looks forward to going there next year. Mark New, CGTN, San Francisco.
Okay, Mark, take care of our legions of colleagues from CGTN heading out there. Let's find out more about what's going to go on, and we're joined by Einar Tangen. He is a senior fellow at the Taihe Institute and chairman of Asia Narratives. Einar, always a pleasure, and a lot going on coming up. How important is this, and what do you think the impact will be for China and the United States? What are they hoping to accomplish at APEC?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. I mean, for Washington, there's a lot going on. I mean, negative reactions to what's happening in Gaza. They're receiving diplomatic cables from their own diplomats saying that there's fury growing in the Middle East among Muslims and Arabic countries. You have all sorts of things happening, on the financial side. We're only 7 days away from a, shutdown of the government. There doesn't seem any progress there. There's a problem with bonds, more bonds to be sold than the market wants to absorb. And then you have all the rest of the issues that the U.S. has with China, their sense that China is impinging. But having said all those things, Sean, there is a lot of light at this time. There seems to be a willingness and cooperation to cooperate by both sides, despite some tough talk from the Biden administration. What's curious, though, is why, if you heard the statement that was issued after the Yellen her meeting, right. Unusual that you have a Treasury Secretary who's issuing that report. That would generally be the Secretary of State. So it's interesting. It seems that with her there, financial matters are at the top of the agenda.
Okay, let's stick with that. Yellen met with Lifeng earlier. More meetings are set to come, and we're going to be characterized by candid, constructive. What do you think those two hope to accomplish, and what are you looking to come out of this? Is this really going to set the table moving forward for the next week?
Well, it's really important. This is a fulcrum point. Yellen needs somebody to start buying U.S. bonds, and obviously China fits the bill. They have the cash. There's substantial trade between the U.S. and China, although it has been diminishing as of late. You start looking at the last 7-8 months, you see a steady downward trend. But that price for cooperation is going to come. There will be a price from the U.S. From the Chinese side. Beijing would like the tariffs reduced or just abandoned. This would actually help the Biden government because getting rid of those tariffs would be up to a 1/4 point reduction in the ongoing inflation. Very, very, very important, especially at a time when Moody's has downgraded the outlook for the U.S. That could be, if that's a precursor to actually downgrading debt for the U.S., taking away the AAA rating, that could be very serious. It would have a huge effect on the financial markets as certain entities would have to shift out of U.S. Treasuries into other AAA rated bonds, et cetera.
Yeah, and really at the end of the week comes November 17th. That's going to be the day that the U.S. must come up with some kind of plan with the House and Senate, or else the U.S. government could shut down. How is that going to play in, do you think, in these discussions and affect U.S.-China relations? And what do you think the highs and lows are with the U.S.-China relations right now?
Well, I mean, Biden's walking a tightrope, not only on what's happening in Gaza, but also domestically. The Republicans are looking for any opportunity to accuse him of being a spendthrift. They're preparing their package, which is, to deal with the financial situation, the budget. It's not acceptable to either the members in the Senate or to the Biden White House. So we're looking at, once again, coming up against some very, very hard realities and tough timelines. Meanwhile, Biden is going to be distracted in terms of trying to sort out the relationship with China. As I said, he's between the devil and the deep blue sea. He has financial needs, but political realities, and both home and abroad. I can't emphasize enough how much anger is growing, not only within the United States, but outside the U.S. I've talked to a lot of ambassadors, and they're shaking their heads. They cannot believe that the Biden administration is doing what it's doing in terms of supporting Israel without a ceasefire.
Well, now there is at least going to be that 4-hour period each day. But from a U.S. perspective, there have been a lot of high-level meetings between China and the United States over the last, 8 to 10 months or so. What about those high-level meetings? What has that done to perhaps pave the road for Xi and Biden sitting down face to face? And what can we expect from that? I mean, that's the highest of the high-level meetings.
Well, you hear it every time there's a meeting. It's all about frank, discussions, etc. Tough talk on both sides. But beneath that veneer, the fact is both sides are working, and it's not just these high-level meetings. These high-level meetings are as a result of a lot of other meetings that are happening at lower levels that are ironing out details. And let's hope that they've reached some sort of convergence on that. I think there is reason to hope. Otherwise, there would not be a meeting between Xi and Biden. So at this point, let's be cautiously optimistic that there's some line that the Biden administration can take that will, at least stabilize the relationship between U.S. and China, and also deal with these other things, the financial crisis that they're having with the budget, and also the international situation with Gaza.
Let's also look at the economic situation of both nations, because China obviously just celebrating the 10th anniversary of the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, and also its economy, which has been somewhat sluggish, is showing signs of life. Here in the United States, it seems that the central bank may be getting a handle on inflation. So what economic advantages do you think are going to be gained by the leaders of the two largest economies on earth from these discussions?
Well, I mean, obviously, if there is cooperation, not only will the economies grow, but so will the world. There are so many political issues, though, that are in the way, and that's really what these discussions are going to be. How can they clear the air? Obviously, the U.S. would love to have some help on the Gaza situation. They don't want to be they've been painted into a corner in essence, and you can see that at the United Nations. The votes are consistently, U.S. And a few allies, maybe 6 or 7, voting against resolutions. Over 155 countries consistently voting against the U.S. and Israel. That has to change. It is not in China's interest to see the U.S. isolated, nor should it be in the U.S. interest to see China isolated. They need to work together, as you pointed out. The economic realities are so huge. China as a producer, U.S. as a consumer. They need to come together. Let's hope that the political situation allows that.
Okay, Einar Tangen, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.